Why does the world reward those who wait while punishing those who rush? And what invisible force turns steady persistence into unstoppable momentum that sudden bursts of effort can never achieve? Can a person addicted to instant results learn that the most profound transformations happen so slowly, they're invisible, until suddenly they're undeniable? Hello everyone, welcome to Universal Life Stories. Today's story reveals why patience isn't passive weakness, but the most powerful force for creating lasting change in our lives. You might be frustrated right now because your dreams aren't materializing on your timeline, tempted to give up because results aren't coming fast enough. This inspirational tale could show you that the seeds you're planting today are growing roots beneath the surface, preparing for a harvest more abundant than you dare imagine. While listening to this story, we will discover how one man's journey from impatience to patience transformed not just his circumstances, but his entire character. So stay with us till the end. In a city where everyone seemed to be racing toward success, lived a man named Daniel. At 29, he had quit 3 promising jobs within their first year because promotions didn't come fast enough, abandoned 4 business ideas because they didn't generate immediate profit, and ended 2 relationships because his partners weren't moving toward marriage on his accelerated timeline. Daniel measured his worth by how quickly he achieved milestones, and anything that required sustained effort over time felt like failure in slow motion. His father, a master carpenter named Robert, who had built a successful furniture business over 30 years, watched his son's pattern with quiet concern. Robert had tried many times to share what he had learned about the relationship between patience and excellence, but Daniel always dismissed his father's wisdom as outdated advice from a generation that didn't understand modern urgency. The conversation that changed everything happened on a Sunday afternoon when Daniel showed up at his father's workshop, frustrated after yet another business venture had collapsed because he had pushed too hard for growth too fast, driving away customers with aggressive sales tactics and exhausting his small team with unrealistic deadlines. Robert was working on a commissioned dining table, carefully sanding the surface with movements so slow and deliberate they seemed almost meditative. Daniel watched impatiently for a few minutes before asking why his father wasted so much time on something that could be done faster with power tools. Robert smiled and invited Daniel to touch the wood, explaining that each type of grain required different pressure, different attention, and different patience. He pointed out how rushing the sanding would create scratches that would show through the finish, ruining months of work. Excellence, Robert explained, couldn't be rushed. It could only be cultivated through patient attention to details that seemed insignificant until suddenly they were everything. Then Robert shared a story that would shift Daniel's entire perspective. 25 years earlier, Robert had been exactly like his son, ambitious, impatient, and convinced that success should come quickly or not at all. He had taken out massive loans to expand his workshop rapidly, hired too many employees before he had sustainable business, and accepted more commissions than he could deliver with quality. Within 2 years, he was drowning in debt, his reputation damaged by rushed work that fell apart, and facing bankruptcy and humiliation. Robert's mentor, an elderly woodworker named Samuel, had offered him a lifeline and a lesson. Samuel brought Robert a tiny acorn and explained that oak trees, which produce the strongest wood for furniture, take 40 to 60 years to reach maturity. The acorn doesn't rush, doesn't panic that it's not a full tree by next spring. It simply focuses on the task of each season, sending down roots, pushing up shoots, and adding rings of growth 1 year at a time. Samuel had asked Robert a question that haunted him for months. If an acorn trusted the process enough to become an oak tree, why can't you trust that steady growth will eventually create something magnificent? That conversation had transformed Robert's approach to everything. He stopped chasing rapid expansion and focused instead on mastering his craft, one piece of furniture at a time. He spent years practicing joinery techniques until his corners were so perfect they looked like single pieces of wood. He developed relationships with clients slowly, delivering such quality that they returned and referred others. He paid off his debts gradually, reinvesting profits carefully rather than borrowing for growth. The transformation was so slow, it was invisible day to day. But after a decade, Robert had built a reputation for excellence that allowed him to charge premium prices and select only projects he genuinely wanted to create. Daniel listened to his father's story with growing recognition of his own patterns reflected in Robert's past mistakes. That week, instead of immediately launching another rushed business venture, Daniel did something that felt uncomfortable and strange. He took a job at his father's workshop as an apprentice, agreeing to spend 1 full year simply learning woodworking with patience and attention to detail. The first months were excruciating for Daniel. His natural impulse was to rush through tasks, to cut corners for efficiency, and to declare himself ready for complex projects before mastering basics. But Robert insisted on the fundamentals: selecting wood, understanding grain, practicing hand tools, and learning that each step built a foundation for the next. When Daniel complained about the slow pace, Robert would remind him of the acorn, trusting the process one season at a time. 3 months into his apprenticeship, Daniel was assigned to build a simple box. He spent 2 weeks on the project, measuring precisely, cutting carefully, and adjusting fits repeatedly until corners met perfectly. When he finally finished, the box was modest and plain, yet Daniel felt more satisfaction from that humble project than from any of his abandoned quick-success schemes. He had created something solid and real through patient attention rather than rushed ambition. By month 6, Daniel noticed changes that went beyond woodworking skills. He had stopped constantly checking his phone, stopped comparing his progress to others on social media, and stopped feeling anxious about timelines and milestones. The workshop's rhythm, measured, deliberate, focused on quality rather than speed, had begun reshaping his entire nervous system. He slept better, felt calmer, and experienced satisfaction from the process rather than needing constant validation from outcomes. When his year of apprenticeship ended, Daniel didn't rush to launch another business. Instead, he asked to stay another year, recognizing that mastery required more time than his impatient younger self would have ever tolerated. He spent year 2 taking on increasingly complex projects, learning from mistakes without abandoning efforts when results weren't immediate, and developing the muscle of persistence that patience requires. 5 years after that Sunday conversation in the workshop, Daniel had become a master craftsman in his own right, specializing in custom furniture that clients waited months to receive because his patience-infused work had become legendary for quality. He had learned what his father tried to teach him years earlier, that patience isn't passive waiting, but active trust, that consistent effort compounds into excellence, that the seeds planted today are growing roots tomorrow and bearing fruit in seasons we can't yet see. Daniel's transformation teaches us that impatience isn't ambition, but anxiety disguised as drive, while true patience is confidence that the work we're doing today matters even when results aren't immediately visible. The secret power of patience is that it allows us to build foundations strong enough to support the weight of lasting success rather than the fragile structures that collapse under the pressure of rushed dreams. If this story speaks to your heart, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. What are you rushing that might benefit from patience? What seeds are you planting today that need time to grow strong roots? Your willingness to trust the process might inspire someone else to stop abandoning efforts before they bear fruit. Subscribe to Universal Life Stories for more inspirational tales that reveal timeless wisdom. Until next time, remember that oak trees don't rush, yet they become the strongest, and so will you if you trust that patient effort compounds into unstoppable momentum.